Hey guys, today we're going to be talking about the best and worst makeup that I've tried so far this year in 2023. Normally I would do this around maybe 3 months in, but there have just been so many new launches that I wanted to do this kind of round up a little bit earlier. I actually made a list of all of the products that I've tried this year, and it was somewhere between 75 and 100 new products, which can be incredibly overwhelming and really difficult to figure out what's worth buying. So on that list, I went through the other day and I put a star next to every product that just makes me happy when I use it, things that I continued to use after the review was a review, and everything else is kind of somewhere in the middle. So in today's video, we're really going to focus on those products that spark joy, as they like to say, and just things that I've been really truly enjoying. And then we're also going to focus on the worst products that just didn't perform, and everything else is somewhere in the middle. I'll touch on them very quickly, but there's so many products to go over and I don't want this video to take forever, so I'm gonna try to move a little bit quicker. I do already have reviews on most of these products on my channel, and at the end of the video I'll just link a playlist with everything so that you can check those out. So grab a snack, grab a drink. This is probably gonna be a long video. Let's go ahead and jump right in and get started. So let's start out with primers first, and I tried 8 different primers this year so far. I have 2 from e.l.f., the Suntouchable Whoa Glow. This is actually an SPF and primer in one, and I also have the Power Grip Primer plus niacinamide. I have 2 from Flower Beauty, the Skin Smoothie Radiant Glow Primer and the Skin Smoothie Power Matte Primer. I also have 2 from L'Oreal. We have the Prime Lab Pore Minimizing Primer and the Redness Eraser. And then I have 2 from e.l.f. I'm kind of putting these in the primer category. They're actually color correctors, and I have a peach one and a green one. So out of those 8 products that I talked about, there are a couple of really big standouts. The first one is the e.l.f. Whoa Glow. I've really been loving this so much. I love how it's really similar to their Halo Glow Primer and the Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood Flawless Filter, but it has your SPF 30 sun protection, and while it is a chemical sunscreen blend versus mineral, and those can sometimes irritate my skin, I have not had any irritation from this one so far. So if that does change, I'll be sure to let you know, but I've been using this every single day since I got it, and I just really love the glow that it gives my skin under foundation. So I really love that. I've also been using these e.l.f. color correctors so much lately, especially the green one. My nose tends to get bright red for whatever reason, and normally I'm putting tons of foundation on it just to cover it up, and then concealer, and sometimes then it can look a little bit makeup-y or grab to the rougher texture of my nose. But if I put this down first to cancel out the redness, then I can use a light coverage foundation and it just covers over everything, and I don't feel like I need to load up my nose with product. So I really like that one. I've also been using the peachy one just around my eyes, and it's great at hiding the darkness and discoloration. And then when it comes to the rest of the primers, I just felt like they were all okay. They were nothing mind-blowing. The L'Oreal primers were nice. The green one did its job. It definitely hid the redness, but for much less money, I would rather just use the e.l.f. color corrector. And I like that this one has the little doe foot. It's just kind of easy to dab it on, whereas this one I have to squeeze it out of the tube onto my hand, and it's just a little bit more of a process. I also feel like the e.l.f. one is just slightly more pigmented, so I need a few extra layers of the L'Oreal to cover up the redness, and the e.l.f. one, just a few dots cancels out everything. So I just like the e.l.f. one better. And then the Pore Minimizing Primer, I did feel like it made my skin smooth, but not as smooth and poreless looking as their Studio Secrets primer, which is my #1 favorite. So this one is nice, and if you find the Studio Secrets primer to be too thick and heavy, it's kind of like a paste-like whipped formula, then you might like this one better, because this one's a little bit more serum-like, it's lighter textured. So I'm sure some people would definitely prefer this one over the Studio Secrets one in the pot, but I like that one the most. And then we also have the 2 Flower Beauty primers, the Skin Smoothie Radiant Glow, which I'm actually wearing today. I just don't find that this gives as much of a glow as the e.l.f. Suntouchable or the e.l.f. Halo Glow, for example. It's just so subtle that when I put foundation on top of it, I just don't see the glow poking through. It has a nice texture. It feels very hydrating on the skin, but I just felt like it didn't really do anything. And the Skin Smoothie Power Matte Primer, kind of like the L'Oreal Smoothing Primer, it does a decent job at smoothing out my pores. It's just not completely mind-blowing, and again, it doesn't do as good a job as my L'Oreal Studio Secrets primer, so that's the one I typically will just reach for automatically if I need pore smoothing. So, oh, I just realized I forgot one primer. I'll be right back. Okay, I got it. So I'll talk about that in just a second because that one actually was a fail for me, but I just wanted to quickly mention the e.l.f. Power Grip Primer with the niacinamide. I don't find this to be any different, at least texture-wise and the way that it performs, than the regular e.l.f. Power Grip. So if you already have that one, yes, this does have the skincare benefits, but that's something that's probably going to work over time. I didn't notice any difference whatsoever the first time I used this versus the original Power Grip. So it basically just feels like the exact same formula. And the one that really didn't work out for me, I actually did in a recent video. This was the Power Fix Primer from Relove. So this is the brand at Walmart where everything is under $5. And I did find some hidden gems in there, so I'll be talking about those later in the video. This primer I actually thought was a cool alternative to the e.l.f. Power Grip because it's not as like sticky as this one, but it does still have enough tackiness to grip your foundation. The only thing is when I tried this on under the Relove Serum Foundation, I wasn't happy with the way the foundation looked. And I wasn't sure if it was the foundation I didn't like or the primer. So I have tried them both separately now, and it's definitely the primer. I put this on under other foundations that I already know and love. And this, for some reason, it just makes foundations just sink right into your pores. Like all of a sudden, my skin looked so textured. No matter what foundation I put on top of this, it did the same thing. So I'm definitely not in any hurry to use this primer again. So just to recap, favorites in the primer category, e.l.f. Suntouchable and the e.l.f. Color Correctors. These are awesome. This one I think you could safely skip. Next up is the foundation category. I have 8 new foundations that have launched so far this year that I've tried. On the drugstore side, we have the Essence Keep Me Covered, the Relove Super Serum Foundation, the NYX Blur With Me, L'Oreal's new True Match formula that's been reformulated, and the Revlon Illuminance Foundation. I also tried the Juvia's Place I Am Magic Radiance Foundation, the Makeup by Mario Surreal Skin, and the Mally Beauty Stressless Foundation. So I definitely do have a few favorites in this category. My number one by far is the new L'Oreal True Match. I can't quite remember what the old one was like. I remember it being more of a thinner formula. This one is really so thin and serum-like. It's really what I wish the L'Oreal Serum Foundation, the hyaluronic one that everybody loves, I wish that that was this, because that one has so much alcohol in it and it makes my skin look very dry. Not at first, but maybe like an hour in, if I look in the mirror, my skin looks all cracked and dry. This one has that same really light serum-like texture, and it's like the silkiest feeling foundation. It doesn't cling to dry patches. It looks like your natural skin, just better. It's honestly one of the most skin-like foundations I've ever used, high-end or drugstore. It's amazing. I just love this one so much, and even though it's lighter coverage, it builds upon itself really well, so it doesn't end up getting cakey if you put extra layers on. I love this. If you want something super natural, if you have drier, more mature skin especially, this one is not going to look heavy or makeup-y. It doesn't sink into fine lines or pores. It's just so, so good. Another one I've really been loving is the Revlon Illuminance Skin Caring Foundation. This one is a little bit thicker than the L'Oreal. It doesn't have the serum-like texture, but it's also a very skin-like feel, and it has a little bit of a glow, which is really nice on my dry skin, especially in the winter time when I'm lacking a lot of glow. But what I love about it is that the glow that's in here isn't sparkle or shimmer in the formula. When you go outside in the sun, you don't look like the people from Twilight. And it has squalane in the formula as well, so it's just a really hydrating, nourishing formula. And then the third foundation that I've really been loving is the Mally Stressless Foundation. I said in the video when I first talked about this that it reminds me a lot of the Lisa Eldridge foundation, but it's a lot less money. This one is more of a medium coverage, whereas the L'Oreal and the Revlon are a little bit lighter. So this one is one that I reach for if I want more coverage on a particular day, but it still looks so natural on your skin. Even though it has more coverage, it doesn't look cakey or heavy or like you're wearing makeup. And similar to the Lisa Eldridge foundation, it kind of almost seems to blur your skin as you wear it. So I find that my skin looks better with the foundation on than it does just by itself. And as far as the formula goes, this one has more of a soft matte finish, or kind of like a satin to matte. So it's not as glowy as the Revlon and even the L'Oreal. While this isn't glowy, I feel like it just kind of has that satin skin-like finish. This one leans a little bit more matte, but it still doesn't look dry. So when I want that kind of a look, I've been reaching for this one a lot. I just think it is such a solid formula. And then I would say these four are probably somewhere in the middle. The NYX Bare With Me is one of those kind of soft matte whipped textures. So if my skin isn't prepped just right, this could look dry on me, but it also sometimes looks good. It's a little bit more of a finicky formula. Also, the Super Serum Foundation from Relove, I actually do like this when I don't use it over that Relove primer. It looked much, much better on my skin, but again, I feel like there's something about this that could make my skin look a little bit dry if I'm not really well moisturized. The Mario Surreal Skin Foundation is nice. It actually is super similar to the Revlon, except this one has mica in the formula, and it looks really sparkly on me when I go outside. So I'm not super crazy about that, but I do like the way that it looks on the skin. It's okay. The Juvia's Place I Am Magic Foundation is super full coverage. The first time I used this in a video, I remember being shocked because when you look at the packaging, it makes me think of like the IT Cosmetics CC cream. I was thinking I could use a little bit more, but when I actually went to put it on, I was like, whoa, too much coverage. So I have learned to kind of just use this very sparingly, and then it looks fine, but it is more full coverage than I normally go for. I usually am not a full coverage person, so I would use this probably once in a while, but it's not going to be like my go-to foundation. And then the foundation that totally didn't work for me was the Essence Keep Me Covered. I just felt like, first of all, the shade range on this is terrible. I had such trouble finding a good match, and they did send me several shades, plus I bought one at Ulta, and I just couldn't get anything that didn't look super yellow on me. And also, I just felt like this made my skin look dry, it looked makeup-y, it was kind of patchy. I really just didn't like how this sat on my skin, and I did share a review on my channel a couple weeks ago and some close-ups, so if you're interested, definitely check that out. So just quickly to recap, L'Oreal True Match is my #1. I love this stuff. This is the one that I use almost every day. The Revlon Illuminance also, or Illuminance, why did I say it like that? Illuminance, this one is really, really nice. And the Mally Stressless, also a beautiful formula. The Essence is a no-go, and the rest are somewhere in the middle. Let's move on quickly to concealer. I only tried 2 concealers this month, actually, and they were the Flower Beauty Get Real Serum Concealer and the Essence Keep Me Covered. This is not even a question. The Flower Beauty Get Real Serum Concealer is amazing. I talked about this in the video where I tried it on, of just how brightening it is, and it looks natural on your skin. It kind of dries down really fast too, so when I was initially putting it on, I thought this is gonna look so dry on my skin, but really throughout the day, it just continued to look good, and because it sets itself down, I didn't feel like I had to set it with anything. It didn't settle into the fine lines under my eyes, and it's just an incredibly brightening formula. You can see a big difference in the video that I did where I talked about the new Flower Beauty stuff, that, you know, when I put it on one side of my face, it just really kind of woke everything up, and I think this is an awesome formula. I'm wearing it again today. I've been reaching for it a lot. The Essence Concealer, the Keep Me Covered, I liked it better than I liked the foundation. It's okay. It's not like the best concealer ever. It did a relatively good job of brightening and hiding dark circles and imperfections, but I definitely prefer the Flower Beauty one hands down. So this one is definitely worth checking out. And then when it comes to powders, I only have 2 that I tried since January. The first one is the Wet n Wild 5-in-1 Essence Powder that I talked about very recently, and the Milani Conceal and Perfect Blur Out Powder. So again, the Wet n Wild one, if you just saw my last video, I wasn't super impressed with this. It's an okay finishing powder. On most of my face, it did look very flawless, and I couldn't see the powder, and it didn't look dry, but on my nose, it kind of grabbed a little bit funny and left like a powdery look, so I wasn't crazy about that. But the Milani powder, this is spectacular. I normally don't even like powder because I have such dry skin, you guys know that, but this one has the most undetectable look on your skin. It never looks like you're wearing powder at all. It just completely disappears, and along with it, just blurs your pores, makes everything look so flawless, and it really just sets your makeup beautifully. So just know that it's very rare for me to rave about a powder. or to even use one, but I actually use this one quite a lot if I just want that really flawless look. It's also great at setting your concealer under your eyes because it's never gonna like settle or make your fine lines more apparent. So I highly recommend this one. This one is okay too. It has pretty good reviews on the Ulta website, but I like the Milani one a little bit better. Okay, so moving on to eyeshadow, I have tried quite a few things since January. I have new mini palettes from Milani, and LA Girl has these new Foreplay quads. CoverGirl came out with their clean color quads. Milani also came out with their new Luminoso palette. I have the Doll Squad 2.0 palette from Doll 10. Several from ColourPop. We had the Winx Club palette. We had the Sage of the Day and Petals on Point collection, also their Pretty Please palette, and also their Flirty Talk Valentine's Day palette. Then there were some liquid and cream eyeshadows going on. We had the Relove Eye Lights that I tried, also the new liquid shadows from Wet n Wild. We had some new eyeshadow crayons from Hard Candy. Just this past week, I also got some new Jelly Much shadows from ColourPop. So I've talked about and tried almost all of these in previous videos, with the exception of two, the Doll Squad 2.0 palette, and I haven't talked about the Jelly Much shadows from ColourPop. And ironically, I think these might be my favorites out of everything. So let's talk about the Doll Squad 2.0 palette first. This is the one that I'm wearing on my eyes today, and I've been wearing it nonstop. Like, I can't even tell you guys how much I really love this palette. I wore it in two videos, I think one in December sometime, maybe one in January, and I got so many questions like, what's on your eyes? And at the time it hadn't launched yet, but I just really wanted to try it out. And I felt so bad because I couldn't reveal it until it actually launched later in January. And not only that, if you look at this palette, you think, okay, it's a neutral palette, it's super boring. But it has to do with not only the colors, but the formula. Color-wise, what I love about this palette the most is just kind of the gradient that the colors go in. It just makes it super easy to blend. For example, I'll normally start with this shade right here all over my lid. Then I'll deepen it up with either this one or this one, depending on if I want warm tones or cool tones. Then you have this one and this one to kind of deepen them up just slightly further. Then you have these three deeper shades to add to the outer corner or just to add even more depth. And they just all blend together so seamlessly. And then you have only three shimmer shades, but they totally work. You have this antique gold shade up here, you have a bronze or copper shade down here at the bottom, and then you have this sort of icy champagne shimmer right here. And the formula is so good. So the Doll Squad palettes are a huge step up from the shadows that they had before. The mattes and the shimmers, for me, almost remind me of Sydney Grace. The mattes are just this really like velvety soft formula that just blends effortlessly. It's actually a talc-free formula as well. They have such nice grip to your skin. They're not powdery where they just kind of blend away. So they grip to your skin well, but at the same time, they still blend out like a dream. The shimmer shades are just this beautiful, soft, smooth metallics that don't look glittery on your eyes. So many brands are putting topper shades into palettes now, and I really miss these shimmer shades that brands used to put in their palettes, like Too Faced and Anastasia, like those really soft, buttery, for lack of a better word, shimmers. So this is literally just the perfect everyday palette. It's just so easy to use, and I find myself reaching for it constantly. Also, fun fact, one of the shades is named after me. It's this one right here. So that's the Jen shade. Every shade in the palette is actually named after a different influencer or somebody who works for Doll 10. So I just thought that was so cute. I also have a coupon code for them, so it's 15% off. I'll leave it down below. And I've also been really loving these Jelly Much shadows. I actually had never tried them before. I know it's not like a new formula for them, but they just recently came out with new shades and also brought back some shades that I guess were either sold out or discontinued. And they also said that they improved the packaging. One of the things that I always saw people complaining about with these is that they dry out really fast, like within a couple of months. I haven't had these for that long, so I can't really speak to that, but hopefully the new packaging will prevent that from happening. But I recently just posted a short with swatches of all of these, so I'll quickly show that to you while I'm talking about the formula. I always had it in my head that this formula was chunky or glittery, or maybe that it was like sticky on your lids, but these are actually a water-based shadow, and when you put them on, they dry down to a powder finish immediately. And once they're on, they really don't budge. They don't crease. And I just love the different finishes that they have. Some of them are more opaque than others. Some of them are very, very sheer. I can tell you right now that the shade Hallucinogenius, which is probably my favorite color, this one is very sheer. So it's more like a topper. But these are just a great one and done shadow, very similar to their Super Shocks, but just a different texture and different vibe. I was also incredibly impressed with these new Wet n Wild liquid shadows. I felt like they perform beautifully. They just feel like such a high-end formula that's not patchy. They give a beautiful wash of color to your lids, and they're really easy to work with. And once they dry down, again, they don't budge, they don't smudge, and I don't notice them breaking up on my eyelids. So these are another great find if you're into liquid eyeshadows. And then there were two eye products that I really was not super crazy about. The first one are these eye lights from Relove. So again, I did a whole video on Relove if you'd like to check that out, but these were so patchy, unlike the Wet n Wild ones. When I put these on, if I even tried to touch it with my finger or later I tried it with a brush, it just lifts the product right back off again, and they looked very patchy. And as I wore it throughout the day, it kind of flaked off everywhere. So these are just not a great formula, sadly. I also wasn't crazy about the new Luminoso palette from Milani. I felt like the matte shades applied okay, but the shimmer shades were very disappointing. They just hardly showed up at all. They have more of a drier, crumbly feel. I just honestly don't see myself reaching for this palette. I feel like I have these colors so many times over, and the formula was very, very lackluster. I will say though, I did like the new Gilded Mini palettes. Again, they're not my favorite, but they're definitely a step up from Milani's older formula that they've been using. I think they really improved it. These aren't as powdery anymore, so when I'm using them, the mattes actually stick to my lids and don't blend away. I do wish that the shimmer shades were a little bit more metallic and maybe had a little bit more oomph, because I feel like to get these to really pop on my lids, I have to wet them with a setting spray. So these are just okay. I'm glad that they changed the mattes, but now I kind of wish that they would work on the shimmer shades. They really just need to go back to that formula they used when they had like the Soft and Sultry palette, the Pure Passion. Those were just perfect. Also, the CoverGirl Clean color palettes, these are somewhere in the middle too. They were okay. I think they're the best eyeshadow formula that CoverGirl has ever done, to be honest with you. I just think that they're very expensive for what they are, and I don't love the whole like clean marketing, and I feel like that's probably one of the reasons why they're charging so much for these. So even though I think these are a really good solid formula, that kind of turns me off from using these just a little bit. I did like the LA Girl Foreplay shadows. These are actually really, really nice. Actually, I should probably have these in the love category along with the Doll 10 palette, because this formula is really good. They kept the price down. I want to say these are between $5 and $6. So I would buy these over the CoverGirl ones any day. And then as far as ColourPop goes, my least favorite would probably be the Winx Club and the Flirty Talk, mainly because these are just colors that I don't use all that often. Flirty Talk is like a bright red and pink palette, and then Winx Club was just very colorful. Granted, I did get some beautiful looks out of both of these palettes, so I don't think they're bad in any way. It's just a personal preference thing for me that I'm not super into bright color. I did think the Pretty Please palette was beautiful. I just have palettes like this in my collection already, so I didn't feel like it was something super unique. And then Petals on Point and Sage the Day, also beautiful palettes from ColourPop. No complaints here at all. But if I had to pick favorites, Doll 10 is definitely my #1 as far as the powder shadows go, followed up by these LA Girl quads. I think these are so cute. And then as far as cream and liquid shadows go, these Jelly Much shadows from ColourPop are really, really nice, and the Wet n Wild ones as well. Moving on to mascara, I have 6 new formulas that I've tried. We have the L'Oreal Telescopic Lift, the LA Girl Lift Off Mascara, also the highly rated tubing mascara from Milani, the Long Lash Lengthening Mascara from Relove, Flower Beauty has their Dream Warrior, and then we have the e.l.f. Lash and Roll. So you guys probably know which one I'm gonna say is my favorite already. That would be the Milani highly rated, and this one, I know it's polarizing. People love it or hate it, but as a huge fan of the Thrive Liquid Lash Extensions mascara, I love this because then I don't have to shell out the 25 bucks for that one, even though this is getting quite expensive for a drugstore mascara. I think it was $13.99, so it's honestly not saving me that much, but this is the one that I wear the most often and the one that I'm wearing today. It's just so easy to remove as a tubing formula, and I never have to worry that it's gonna smudge underneath my eyes because tubing formulas generally don't do that. that. And I also love the length and volume that this gives, especially once the formula dries out a little bit. It can be very wet and gloppy at first, but give it maybe like a week, it dries out and it's perfect. I also really like the way my lashes look with the new telescopic lift from L'Oreal. It gives so much volume in that video. I was really blown away by it. The only thing I'm not crazy about with this one is the brush. It has a little bit of a learning curve and it's not quite as easy to use. Plus, this formula dries down so quickly that I can usually only get 1 to 2 coats before it's completely dry. And I like to build my mascara and really like pump up my lashes. And with this one, I really don't get very far before it just dries and I'm done. So I think I still like the Milani a little bit better, but I do like the way that my lashes look with this one. I also really enjoy the e.l.f. Lash and Roll. This one doesn't give me as big a lashes as the Milani and the L'Oreal, but it doesn't smudge. It's not a clumpy formula, so you can just apply as many coats as you want and I don't feel like it gets all messy. It's also a very solid dupe for Benefit's Roller Lash if you like that one. These other three I just felt like were okay. The LA Girl Lift Off I loved initially, but I felt like my lashes kind of got weighed down throughout the day and they just didn't hold the curl quite as much as I wanted them to. Also the Dream Warrior from Flower Beauty, it was all right. I just didn't feel like it gave me the biggest lashes that I normally would go for. And the Long Lash Lengthening Mascara from Relove. I thought that this one, again, made my lashes look pretty good. It gave a decent amount of length and volume, just not quite as much as the Milani or the L'Oreal Telescopic. But I did find out that this is a tubing formula when I went to remove it, so that was actually a really pleasant surprise. So really, I don't feel like I tried any bad mascaras, but again, if I have to pick a favorite, it's this one right here. Moving on to cheek products, I have a lot of cheek products and I think that's one of the categories that is super hot right now. Everybody's loving their blushes and contour wands and highlighters. So let's start with highlighters first, and I'm just gonna talk about pure highlighters, not blush highlighter combinations, because there's a lot of those out there too, but these are just strictly highlighters. So the ones that I tried were the Rare Beauty Positive Light Highlighter. I also tried the Hard Candy Face Off Highlighter, which is a stick. And then I have the Tarte Shape Tape Glow Bar. And I would say my favorite out of the three is probably the Hard Candy one, which is a little bit surprising considering the other two are more high-end formulas, but I'll explain why. The Rare Beauty Highlighter is beautiful. It's a really nice formula. I'm not saying that I don't like it. It's just that I don't reach for it that much because it is very intense and it's not the type of highlighter that I would normally wear like on a daily basis. You put it on and it looks like you're wearing highlighter, and I typically like a highlight that looks like your skin is a little bit more glowy, and I think that these Hard Candy ones really do that. This one is the Champagne Breakfast shade, which is my favorite, but when I put this on, it kind of reminds me a little bit of the Flower Beauty Day Glow highlighter in that it just looks so natural, but I really like the stick format of this. It's just very easy to put on. So this is just more in line with the natural looking highlighters that I tend to go for. I really like this formula a lot. And then as far as the Tarte Glow Bar, I kind of feel like I wasted my money on this a little bit because these two powders right here, I don't feel like they look any different on the skin. They add a tiny, tiny little bit of glow, but it's really like just a glowy finishing powder. And then the bronzer, I just felt like wasn't the right color for my skin tone. It's more of a yellowy bronzer, and I typically like bronzers that have a little bit more of a pink or red undertone. So I just don't really see myself reaching for this one, but I do really love the Hard Candy one, and I like the Rare Beauty one too. I just don't use it all that often. Then let's talk about contour wands, because there are three that everybody is talking about, and I see that there are more new contour products coming out, so I think contour is having another moment. But we have the Tarte Sculpt Tape Contour Wand, the Flower Beauty Low Light, and the Milani Liquid Contour, the Conceal and Perfect. So I don't actually feel like any one of these is really better than the other. I like them for different reasons. So I'll explain. The Tarte one is more of like a bronzy shade, but it has a little bit of a red undertone. So I really like that. I just don't feel like it's necessarily a contour color because it's warmer. So when I use this one, I feel like I'm doing it more to bronze my face. And the Milani one in the shade Honey is very similar in that way. it's a warmer tone. So again, it's better as like a liquid bronzer. But what I really love about these is how beautifully and seamlessly they blend out on the skin. They're very easy to use. They melt in. You just grab a brush and they're just super seamless. The Flower Beauty one in the shade Light is actually the perfect cooler tone contour color. So as far as contour wands go, I think they did get the color and the undertone right. However, the Flower Beauty formula is a little bit trickier to work with than the Tarte and the Milani. This one dries incredibly fast, so if you put it on, you have to blend it right away. Otherwise, you get kind of like this little bit of patchiness going on. So I don't love this formula as much as I love these, but at the same time, I think that this color is better if I want to contour. And I don't feel like this formula is necessarily unusable. You can definitely work with it, but you just have to do it like section by section and you're fine. Next up, as far as blushes go, I do have some top favorites. The first one is the Relove Baby Tint. These surprised the heck out of me. They're $2.98. You can use them on your lips and your cheeks, and they have this really soft, moussey texture, and they just blend so nicely on your skin. And I actually like them on my lips and my cheeks because they're not super drying on your lips, but at the same time, they seem to sink in really well on your cheeks and they don't stay sticky. So they're really one of those rare products that I actually like for both places. And I feel like the colors are so pretty. I did show them in my Relove video if you want to check that out. I also really like the Milani Cheek Kiss Luminoso blush. This one is almost like more highlighter than blush, but it does add a little bit of color to your cheeks, and it looks a lot like the Charlotte Tilbury Peachgasm wand. So it's a nice drugstore alternative to that, but if you're looking for like a really pigmented blush, you're not really going to get that with this one. It's a little bit more on the sheer side. I also recently just tried the new Tarte blush tapes. They're really almost identical to the Charlotte Tilbury blushes, but they're a little bit less expensive. Instead of $42, they're $35. So these are a very solid formula. Definitely like those. The Essence What a Tint. I was impressed with this. I actually think this is a beautiful alternative to the Benefit Benetint. And again, this is something you can use both on your lips or your cheeks. It's a stain, so it's definitely going to set down and stay most of the day. And on your cheeks, it really looks like you're blushing from within. It doesn't look like you're wearing blush because this rosy color is just like that color that you would naturally flush. So it's really natural looking, and you can also use this just to give your lips that little bit of color. It's a little bit of like a bitten look, so it's really, really nice. The new Essence Baby Got blush sticks are also really, really nice. They're a cream formula that blends very easily, seamlessly on your skin. They dry down to a powder finish. They do have like kind of like a fruity scent, so something just to keep in mind. They smell like watermelon, but I love the colors they come in. They're super affordable, and I mean, to be honest with you guys, there's rarely a blush that I don't like. You will see a couple here, but most of the blushes that I tried, I really like, let's be honest. Next, we have the Pure Nude Baked Blushes from Essence. These are also beautiful. Just keep in mind, they are a little bit more on the subtle side, so if you like a really heavy blush look, you're gonna have to layer these up. They have a little hint of a sheen in all of them. Again, it's not gonna look like necessarily a highlighter on your cheeks, but it just gives your skin that little bit of a glow. Most of them are more on the peachy side. I wish that they had included maybe some more cool tones. The only one that they really have that's cooler is Goldie Cassis shade, which is kind of like a lavender purple. It's beautiful, but it's really like the only cool tone in the bunch. So that was one slight downside for me, but I really love the formula a lot. And also these Relove blushed duos. They look just like the e.l.f. ones, but I actually feel like the formula of these is better than the e.l.f. The blush is so pigmented, and what I really like more than the e.l.f. is the highlighter, because these highlighters are incredibly smooth, and the e.l.f. ones I felt like were a little bit chunkier, not quite as soft and silky as these are. And these are also a larger size for the same price. They're easier to get a blush brush into, so I think these are another really solid option. As far as blushes that I wasn't crazy about, the ColourPop Heart blushes that came out with their Valentine's Day collection, I wanted to love these so much, but in particular, this lavender shade is so sheer, it just doesn't show up on me. So I actually like the other ones, I'll mention that. But it's really this lavender one that was such a disappointment. When I went to put it on, it just looked like I put on nothing. And I'm pretty fair skinned, so it's not gonna work on me. I don't know who it's gonna work on. Same thing with these Hard Candy Face Off blushes. These are a liquid formula. Again, the lavender one just didn't really show up. It didn't look like anything. So that was also a disappointment, although the deeper shade, Who Is She, did show up really nicely, and I feel like this could also be a drugstore alternative to something like the Charlotte Tilbury Light Wands, because these have a lot of sheen in the formula, so they're kind of like a blush lighter. So yeah, in the cheek category, it's kind of hard to pick like a favorite because I like so many of them for different reasons. I think it's easier for me to say what didn't work, namely the Tarte Glow Bar, and the lavender blushes. These really were the only duds. Everything else I've really been enjoying, and I kind of use different things every day. There isn't really one that I've necessarily been reaching for a lot. I just love blush, and I feel like the drugstore does blush just as well as high end. So I just think there are a lot of really good options here. Next, when it comes to brows, I actually didn't try a lot of brow products this month. I tried the new Milani Stay Put Liquid Brow Wax. And also I tried a product that I haven't talked about on my channel, but this is the one that I've been using nonstop. This is the Too Faced Fluff and Hold Laminating Brow Wax. I picked this up at Sephora when I was in store, just like on a whim. And before this, I had been using either the Anastasia Brow Freeze or the Got2b Hair Gel in the big tube, because both of those products hold my brows the best. Out of any other brow gel, those would just cement them in place and keep them up all day. My brows grow to the side and down, so I need something really strong to hold them up all day. And the Got2b gel is for hair, so it comes in a big tube. Realistically, it'll be years before I actually run out of that, but the only problem is it doesn't have an applicator, so I have to grab a spoolie and then squirt a little bit of the gel onto it, and then I end up having to clean the spoolie every time I use it, otherwise it gets all gunked up. It's not really a big deal. I was using that for months, but it just was like kind of an extra step to have to use this special spoolie. And I did get the Got2b brow gel that comes in the tube. They don't actually have it in America, but I ordered it online from, I think it was the UK. And I just didn't like it as much as the gel that comes in the big tube. I don't know why, it just didn't work as well for me. So anyway, this Too Faced one came along and it is so good. First of all, it's a very wet formula, so you only need a little bit, and I just put this on my brows with the brush that's included, so I don't have to clean it off every time. And then the best part is you open the cap this way, and there's actually a brush on one side and a comb on the other. What I like to do is after I put the brow gel in, I'll take the comb and kind of comb through my brows to separate them. And then I take this brush side, and when you brush it into place, it kind of like sticks it right to your skin, and then it just dries there and it does not move. So usually I put this on first, then I go ahead and kind of do the rest of my makeup, and then when this is dried down, I'll take the NYX Lift and Snatch brow pen in the shade Ash Brown and just kind of fill in the little gaps. And it is so much easier than what I used to do before. I used to fill in my brows with a brow pencil, then I would use brow gel, then usually once I brushed them up, then there were more gaps where I didn't have the pencil, and I would have to then fill it in again. And usually at that point, the pencil didn't work as well because I had gel in my brows. So I just find that it's easier to put the gel in first, let it dry completely, then use a brow pen to fill in, and it's perfect. I've been liking my brows so much more since using these two products. That being said, I do like the Milani Stay Put Liquid Brow Wax as well. It's really similar, I would say a dupe for the new Benefit Brow Wax, but it's not quite as wet as the Too Faced one, and I find that I have to keep going over my brows a bunch of times just to get enough product on there to really get them to stay up. I think if you have brows that don't need a lot of hold, this one would be great because it actually looks very natural. The wax is more of a light formula. It keeps your brows looking fluffy, and it definitely, once I put enough of it in there, it does have really good hold throughout the day. But I just keep going back to this Too Faced one because it's so easy. Plus it has the little tools under the cap that really help like to comb out my brows and make them look better. So this has been so good, and it's something that I haven't even talked about on my channel until now. I don't know why. Okay, getting down to the last category of lips. I tried a lot of lip products this month as well. I've talked about almost all of these on my channel, so I'm gonna go through these really quickly. Let's start with the things that I was not crazy about. The first one is from Revolution, and these are the Ceramide Lip Swirls. I thought these were gonna be really good alternatives to the Givenchy Rose Perfecto liquid lip balms. They're nothing like them. They do initially feel nice on your lips, but like I mentioned in my review before, these are so thick and sticky, but even if you just put a light layer on, when you go to talk, it makes those like strings between your lips. It's gross. I won't wear these because of that, and also they have like a funky plastic smell to them, so right away That was a total turn off. So these are in my no pile. I also was not crazy about these L'Oreal Color Riche Intense Volumizing Matte Lipsticks. They surprisingly have really good reviews on the Ulta website. A lot of people love these, so don't take my opinion for it. If you like matte lipsticks, then I think you'll probably like these because the general consensus is that they're good. I think the issue is that I don't like matte lipsticks, and that's mostly, I'm guessing, why I don't enjoy these. They just accentuate and enhance every line that's in my lips. They make my lips look old and wrinkly, so not a big fan of these at all. The Revlon Color Stay Suede Ink lipsticks were a little bit better than the L'Oreal, but still they're a matte formula, so just not my thing. But I have to say, when I first applied these, they actually felt very smoothing on the lips. It's just after a little while, they started to look dry, whereas the L'Oreal ones, I felt like right away, they kind of tugged and they felt very dry initially. The Revlon ones at least didn't do that, but they're still not my favorite formula. So I would say those three are probably the worst things that I've tried. In the middle, we have these CoverGirl Clean Fresh Yummy Glosses. I like these and I don't. The things that I like about them is that they feel very hydrating on your lips. They almost have a similar formula to something like the Maybelline Lifter Glosses. They don't have a sticky, tacky feel. They almost feel like a lip oil when they go on. And they are scented, but I like the scents because they kind of smell like whatever the name is, and they're all these fun, fruity flavors. So I don't mind that. One thing that I don't like about these that I didn't realize initially is that these have some sort of like a tingle in the formula, and I didn't think that they were necessarily a plumping lip gloss. They're not marketed that way. So the first time I wore this around for a while, I was actually concerned with like maybe I'm getting some sort of allergic reaction to something in the formula. But then when I went on the Ulta website and I read the reviews, a lot of people had the same thing. So I think maybe there's something like plumping in the formula or something that tingles. And while it's not super strong or unbearable, I'm just not really a fan of lip products that tingle. So I much prefer the Maybelline Lifter Glosses to these. These aren't bad, but they're not my favorite. Also, we have the Lottie London Cheeky Kiss lipsticks. These are actually so cute. They're very similar to the Kaja Heart Melter lip balms at Sephora. I really like these. They're a tinted lip balm, but they actually have a ton of pigmentation. They go on like a lipstick. My only one complaint after using them for a while is just that the heart shape is a little bit tricky to kind of get in your lip lines. And because they're so pigmented, it's really noticeable if you go outside of your lip lines. So you just kind of have to be careful with these because of the shape of the tube. But otherwise, I think they're really nice. I also like these new Flower Beauty Plump Up lip glosses, even though they do have the tingle. It didn't surprise me because they're called Plump Up and I kind of knew that they were going to do that. But these are a similar idea to the Tarte Maracuja Juicy Lips. They have that sort of melty texture. They're not as glossy as the Tarte ones. They're more of a tinted lip balm, but they just feel very comfortable on your lips, and I really like all the colors that they come in as well. I also really like the Relove Baby Gloss. This gloss surprised me again, just like the baby tints. I felt like this had so much pigmentation for a lip gloss. I love this color, Glam. It's like the perfect cool tone pink. I put it on in my Relove video in case you want to check that out, but I was just very surprised for like a $3 lip gloss. It's really nice. I would definitely pick up more colors. And then getting into the things that I really loved. First were these lip liners from Hard Candy. These are called the Instapout lip liners, and I was just so impressed by these. I felt like they were so creamy. They actually come with a little flat brush on the back, and you can kind of smudge the lip liner. And I've been using these a lot just as lipstick, where I'll line the outside of my lips, then I'll take the brush and just sort of feather the lip liner in towards the center, put on a lip balm, and it's just this really nice, soft, diffused look. So I would definitely pick up more colors of these. I only have 2 colors, and again, I showed swatches and everything in my video about the Hard Candy stuff, but these are a really great high-end feeling formula, so I love those. Also, these Wet n Wild Rose Comforting Lip Balms are so good. I talked about these, I think it was just in my last video, but they're so similar to the Revlon Glass Shine lipsticks. These are actually more, I would say they're closer to the Tarte Maracuja Juicy Lips than the Flower Beauty ones are, only because these have a little bit more gloss to them. The Flower Beauty ones have like more of a tinted balm look on your lips, and these actually come out looking a little bit more on the glossy side. So these are a beautiful formula. They're like $5. If you like a really glossy lip product, I think you'll love them. And then the lip product that I haven't talked about on my channel, but I'm obsessed and I definitely want to get more colors. I noticed this just standing online at Ulta and I just grabbed it on a whim thinking I haven't tried anything from this brand, let me try it. This is from About Face and it's their lip color Butter and I got the shade Kiwi Fuzz. So again, very similar to the Tarte Maracuja Juicy Lips. It even comes in the same packaging with the click up pen. And unlike the Flower Beauty ones, this has so much of a glossy finish. And in fact, it's way more pigmented than the Tarte ones. I'll show you really quickly. I just put that on the back of my hand. This is actually what I'm wearing in the video today. And I've been wearing this for a while now, so I feel like the glossiness has kind of gone down. And that's the same thing that happens with the Tarte after a while. They just kind of sink into your lips a little bit more, but it just has that soft, cushiony, melty feel. And if you don't like the coconut scent that the Tarte ones have, this has a scent, but it's not that. Maybe like tangerines or something. It's a fruity scent. It's really not that strong and I don't smell it at all once I actually put the lip balm on. So this is another lip product that I've been reaching for a lot. It's more of a neutral color, so it tends to go with a lot of different looks, but I do want to pick up a few more shades next time I'm at Ulta. So I think I covered everything. This was a really long video, you guys, but I just really wanted to recap the best and worst products that I've tried so far this year. If you'd like to see more about any of these products, I'll just put a playlist of all my reviews right here on the screen so you can go through and just take a look at swatches or see the products being applied. There are a couple of things that I didn't talk about, like the About Face lip gloss, the Too Faced brow gel, and the Doll Squad palette. I don't have videos with those in them, but everything else is out there with either swatches or a try on. So anyway, guys, I want to thank you so much for clicking on this video and spending time with me. As always, I really, really appreciate it. If you're new here and you love makeup, especially affordable and drugstore makeup, be sure to hit that subscribe button before you go, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Take care. Bye.